a scholarly treatise on the Fraternitas Saturni, its history, doctrines, and practices. Introduction. Unveiling Germany's most secretive magical lodge. In the complex tapestry of Western esotericism, few organizations have exerted as profound an influence on the German-speaking occult world as the Fraternitas Saturni FS, or Brotherhood of Saturn. Often shrouded in a dense mist of secrecy and misconception, the FS can be understood as the continental equivalent to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn in the Anglophone sphere. For decades, its inner workings remained concealed, accessible only to its initiates, until a series of historical events brought its internal documents into the public domain. This treatise draws its analysis exclusively from the foundational research of Stephen E. Flowers, whose work systematically organizes this vast array of German language material, bringing the order's true history, doctrines, and rituals to a wider scholarly audience for the first time. The objective of this treatise is to provide a comprehensive and systematic analysis of the Fraternitas Saturni, grounded in the primary and secondary sources presented in Flowers' study. We will explore the order's unique and potent synthesis of Aleister Crowley's Thelema, ancient Gnostic cosmology, and a starkly defined Saturnian astrosophy. This exploration will trace the Brotherhood's journey from its origins in the cultural crucible of Weimar Germany, through its suppression by the National Socialist regime, to its post-war renewal and subsequent schisms. The treatise is structured in 4 parts. Part 1 will trace the order's historical and ideological origins. Part 2 will deconstruct the core doctrines of the Saturn Gnosis. Part 3 will map its initiatory structure. And Part 4 will detail its practical magical work. 1. Historical and ideological foundations. To comprehend the singular character of the Fraternitas Saturni, one must first appreciate the complex and vibrant occult subculture of late 19th and early 20th century Germany from which it emerged. The order was created from what has been aptly described as a heady brew of Freemasonry, astrology, Gnosticism, and the newly promulgated Law of Thelema. Understanding this rich tapestry of influences is essential to grasping the strategic and philosophical choices made by its founders and the unique trajectory the Brotherhood would follow. 1.1. The cultural cauldron of Weimar Germany. The Fraternitas Saturni was born in the Weimar Republic, 1918 to 1933, a period of extreme contradictions in German history. Its capital, Berlin, was a dynamic cultural epicenter, a hothouse for alternative movements in art, politics, sexuality, and religion. As documented in works like Mel Gordon's Voluptuous Panic, this chaotic yet intensely creative environment nurtured radical pursuits that challenged every convention. It was this fertile ground of social upheaval, intellectual ferment, and spiritual seeking that provided the ideal conditions for the emergence of an organization as esoteric and unconventional as the Fraternitas Saturni. 1.2. The tapestry of influences. The FS did not arise in a vacuum, but was the culmination of several distinct ideological streams that converged in the early 20th century. Quasi-Masonry and Theosophy. Structural model. The primary organizational framework for the FS was Winkelmalerei, or irregular Freemasonry, which adopted the degree structures, rituals, and lodge principles of established Masonry for esoteric purposes. Key organizations, the Ordo Templi Orientis, OTO, under the leadership of figures like Theodor Reuss, served as a prime example of this milieu. Early connections between pivotal figures like Franz Hartmann and Rudolf Steiner with the OTO demonstrate the deep interconnection of these movements. Ideological synthesis. The Theosophical Society, introduced to Germany in the late 1870s, popularized Eastern concepts such as karma and reincarnation, fostering an eclectic synthesis with Western esoteric ideas, Ariosophy and Germanic mysticism, core figures. This movement, spearheaded by Guido von List and Georg Lanz von Liebenfels, blended theosophical concepts with Germanic paganism and racial theories, incorporated themes. While the FS would later shed the overt racialism, it absorbed several key Ariosophical themes, including the belief in hidden masters guiding humanity, a fascination with Templarism, and the doctrine of a coming age of higher spiritual evolution. The runic magic later practiced by FS member Karl Spiesberger, Fra Eritus, also finds its modern roots in the work of Liszt, Adonism, system and founder, a powerful libertine magical system developed by the Viennese scholar Franz Sattler, Dr. Musallam. Adonism was markedly anti-Christian and posited that uninhibited sexual enjoyment was the primary mode of worship. Doctrinal contribution. It equated the god Adonis with Satan, establishing a philosophy of total liberation from inhibitions. This undercurrent of erotic mysticism and anti-clericalism would find a clear echo in subsequent FS doctrine. The FOGC 99, Lore and Character, the mythos of the shadowy Freemasonic Order of the Golden Centurion, FOGC, contributed themes of demonology and esoteric technology. Portrayed as a sinister order founded in 1840, its structure was limited to 99 initiates, central concepts. The order's demonium was considered its 100th member. Its lore included tales of ritual sacrifice and the dreaded Tepophone, a machine supposedly capable of killing at a distance, which resonated within the FS. 1.3. The Pansophical Crucible and the Advent of Crowley. The immediate precursor to the Fraternitas Saturni was the Pansophical Lodge, or Pansophia, a Berlin-based study group headed by the occult book dealer Heinrich Tranke, Vacher Regnatus. Among its key members were Eugen Groscher, the future founder of the FS, who was given the lodge name Gregor A. Gregorius, Karl Germer, via Saturnus, who would later become the international head of the OTO, and Albin Grau, Master Pasitius, a set designer and producer for the seminal 1922 horror film, Nosferatu. The pivotal event in this group's history was the Wide Arc Conference of summer 1925. At Tranker's invitation, the English magician Aleister Crowley traveled to Germany to present his revelatory text, the Book of the Law, and its central tenet, the Law of Thelema, do what thou wilt. The conference was intended to unite several occult factions under Crowley's leadership as a new world teacher. The result, however, was a schism. Tranker and Grau were repulsed by the book's bombastically anti-Christian tone and renounced their initial tentative acceptance. In contrast, Gregorius was favorably impressed with Crowley and his Ionic law. This fundamental disagreement led directly to the ritual dissolution of the Pansophical Lodge in 1926 and the subsequent formation of the Fraternitas Saturni by Gregorius and his allies, who sought to create an order that accepted the law of Thelema while remaining entirely independent of Crowley's authority. 1.4. The life cycle of the order: founding, suppression, and renewal. The organizational history of the Fraternita Saturni can be divided into 4 distinct phases. 1. Founding, 1926-1933. Following the collapse of the Pansophical Lodge, Gregor A. Gregorius formally established the Fraternitas Saturni on May 8, 1926. This date marks the order's organizational beginning, while its official magical inception occurred later, on Easter Saturday of 1928. This initial period was marked by intensive activity, with Gregorius using his Berlin occult bookshop, Inveha, as a headquarters and recruiting ground. The order published instructional materials and a journal, Saturn Gnosis, 1928 to 1930, which articulated its developing doctrines. 2. Interregnum, 1933-1945. With the rise of the National Socialist regime, all Masonic and quasi-Masonic lodges were systematically suppressed. The FS was officially banned, and in 1936, the Gestapo seized Gregorius's extensive library. He fled to Switzerland and later Italy, but was arrested in 1943 and extradited back to Germany. He was imprisoned for a year before being released, a turn of events facilitated by an old personal esoteric relationship with a certain local Nazi official. 3. Renewal, 1950-1964. After the war, Gregorius made his way to West Berlin and began reorganizing the order. The year 1950 marked a turning point with the launch of a new monthly journal, Blätter für angewandte okkulte Lebenskunst, Papers toward the Applied Occult Art of Life, which ran until 1963. This era saw significant growth in the contributions of influential members like Karl Spiesberger, Fra Eratus, who authored numerous monographs on practical magic. 4. Discords and Harmonies, 1964, present. Gregorius's death in January 1964 precipitated a period of intense internal conflict and power struggles. A succession of Grand Masters and the formation of an exclusive inner circle led to dissension and schisms. It was during this chaotic period, around 1969, that a disgruntled former Grand Master leaked a mass of internal documents to Professor Dr. Adolf Hemberger, who subsequently published them. This exposure of the order's deepest secrets forced a reorganization and led to the formation of divergent groups, such as the Ordo Saturni, which continue to operate today. From this complex historical evolution, the Fraternitas Saturni forged a unique and coherent philosophical system known as the Saturn Gnosis. At 2. The Saturn Gnosis, core doctrines and philosophy. The Saturn Gnosis represents the intellectual and spiritual heart of the Fraternitas Saturni. It is not a simple doctrine, but a complex synthesis of Gnostic cosmology, astrological mythology, Nietzschean philosophy, and a unique interpretation of Luciferianism. All of these disparate elements are unified and focused through the powerful and multifaceted archetype of the planetary intelligence Saturn, who is viewed as the demiurge and ruling archon of the present age. 2.1. Foundational principle, Lux et Tenebris, light from darkness. The central dictum of the FS is Lux et Tenebris, light from the darkness. This is encapsulated in the statement, without darkness there is no light. Unlike the stark moral dualism of Manichaeism, which pits a good light against an evil darkness, the Saturnian philosophy is one of dynamic polarity. Darkness is understood as the necessary matrix from which light emerges and is given form. As in the Taoist yin-yang symbol, the seed of each principle is contained within its opposite. The initiate does not seek to vanquish darkness, but rather to experience, comprehend, and master both the forces of light and darkness, ultimately achieving a higher synthesis beyond conventional notions of good and evil. 2.2. The Saturnian archetype and the go-tos. In the doctrine of the FS, Saturn is a complex, multi-layered archetype that serves as the focal point for the manifestation of the demiurge. The demiurge. Saturn is explicitly identified with the Gnostic demiurge, the creator of the material world. He is the guardian of the threshold who stands between humanity and the higher spiritual realms, testing and judging all who would seek passage. He is also the revealer of divine secrets, a Promethean figure who broke the static cosmic order to initiate change and evolution. The dual octave. The Saturnian sphere is understood to have a dual nature, as depicted in the order's teachings. See figure 2.2. Its higher octave is Lucifer, the light bearer who represents enlightenment, reason, and intelligence. Its lower octave is Satan, who embodies the principles of rebellion, adversity, and death. Both are seen as essential aspects of the Saturnian current, which the initiate must learn to navigate. The go-tos. The specific guiding intelligence of the Fraternitas Saturni is an egregore, or group spirit, known as the go-tos. This entity functions as a magical battery, storing the collective psychic energy of the lodge, and as a preter-human guide analogous to the secret chiefs of the Golden Dawn. The Gotos is physically represented on Earth by the acting Grand Master, 33 degrees, and its name is an acronym for the full title of this degree, Gradus Ordinis Templi Orientis Saturni. 2.3. Aeonic Cosmosophy, the dark side of the Aquarian Age. The FS possesses a unique eschatology concerning the great astrological ages. It teaches that humanity is transitioning from the Piscean Age, ruled by Jupiter and Neptune, into the Aquarian Age, ruled by Saturn and Uranus. However, in stark contrast to popular New Age conceptions of a utopian era of peace and love, the Saturn Gnosis focuses on the dark side of this new eon. It foresees an age of potential control by a Saturno-Uranian elite, a mechanized and digitalized reality perfectly suited to the expression of this force. The Order's cosmology was also influenced by the Welteslehre, cosmic ice theory of Austrian engineer Hans Holberger, which posited cosmic cycles of expansion, cosmic fire, and contraction, cosmic ice that govern the universe. 2.4. The Luciferian Principle and Gnostic Christology. The FS adopts a thoroughly Promethean interpretation of Lucifer as the benefactor of humanity. In this view, a creator god, identified with Jehovah or Zeus, wished to keep humanity in a state of ignorant servitude. Lucifer, the light-bearer, rebelled against this tyranny and bestowed upon mankind the divine fire of consciousness and knowledge. This principle is further articulated through an Ophet-Nassim Gnostic Christology. The FS identifies the serpent of Eden, Hebrew Nakesh, with the Christos, Hebrew Messiah. This identification is supported by the esoteric practice of gematria, as both Hebrew words have a numerical value of 358. The specific calculation is Nechesh n.chich.esh 50, 8.300, 358, and Messiah m.sheech, y.tich, 40.300.10.8, 358. Therefore, the serpent is not the tempter, but the true liberator of mankind, offering redemptive gnosis, knowledge, in place of blind pistis, faith. This Gnostic Christos is understood as a messenger of the serpent, not the creator god. 2.5. Nietzschean Thelemism, the law of compassionless love, the official motto of the Fraternitas Saturni, reveals its most significant doctrinal innovation. Do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will. Compassionless love, the critical edition of compassionless love, Mitleidlose Liebe, represents a profound Nietzschean reinterpretation of Aleister Crowley's law of Thelema. In Crowley's system, the ultimate act of love under will is a mystical union that results in the annihilation of the individual self in the divine. The Saturnian ideal, however, is not self-annihilation, but self-deification. Drawing from Friedrich Nietzsche's critique of pity in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, compassionless love is defined as a creative and formative force. It is a love that seeks to shape, elevate, and perfect the beloved, rather than a love that consumes the self in an act of surrender. These abstract doctrines of the Saturn Gnosis are embodied and transmitted through a concrete organizational framework and a rigorous initiatory path. Part 3. The initiatory path and organizational structure. To implement its complex doctrines, the Fraternitas Saturni developed a highly formalized structure modeled on the ancient and accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry. This rigid hierarchy of 33 degrees is not an end in itself. Rather, it serves a single primary purpose: to provide a curriculum and a magical environment that guides the initiate along the solitary way of Saturn. This path is designed to cultivate self-mastery, esoteric knowledge, and ultimately direct personal gnosis. 3.1. The way of Saturn, a path of solitude and elitism. The Saturnian initiatory path is fundamentally one of solitude. Its core aim is to liberate the individual from the psychic and spiritual influences of the masses, which are seen as detrimental to progress. The initiate is trained to become a self-contained being, finding joy and strength in this isolation, as they focus on their initiatory aims. This philosophy fosters a distinct elitism, rooted in the Gnostic belief that the profound knowledge sought by the order is not accessible to the spiritually unevolved. The FS does not reject humanity, but it holds that only a select few are capable of treading the demanding path to the Saturnian light. 3.2. The 33 degrees of initiation. The structure of the FS is a graded hierarchy of 33 degrees, mirroring the Scottish rite. These degrees are divided between those that are earned through specific work and examinations, and honorary degrees bestowed for functional roles within the lodge. Degree number title, general category, court, core. Work qualifications, 0 degrees, neophyte, outer court, the entry point for all new members. 1 degree, 3 degrees, scholasticus, voluntatis, verbi, vitae, outer court. Student grades focusing on the will, intellect, and practical life mastery, awarded to reliable and disciplined members. 4 degrees, frater sorella, outer court, symbolic entry into the temple after a minimum of 3 years of loyal and reliable membership. 8 degrees, gradus Mercurii, degree of Mercury, outer court, an earned degree requiring a minimum of 3 years membership and fulfillment of 5 conditions. 1. Mastery of apprentice-grade ritual and symbolism. 2. Knowledge of theosophical doctrines, karma, reincarnation, 7 principles. 3. Mastery of basic astrology. 4. Basics of symbolism. And 5. A written work on elementary Rosicrucian concepts. 12 degrees Gradus Solis, degree of the sun. Rosicrucian grades. The first degree of the Saturnian priesthood. Requires lifelong loyalty, a minimum of 6 years of membership, mastery of FS priesthood, ritual and symbolism, and the submission of 3 essays. 1 on a 12 degrees topic, 2 from topics of 1 degree, 12 degree. 18 degrees, Magus Pentalphi, Magus the Pentalpha. Rosicrucian grades. A pivotal earned degree focused on the study and practice of sexual magic and mysticism, primarily derived from the OTO system. Requires attainment of 12 degrees and is usually restricted to males. Candidates must complete a written work on erotic magic and 2 other essays. 25 degrees, Magister Gnosticus, Master of Gnosis. High degrees requires attainment of 12 degrees and an R+C grade. Areas of study include Gnosticism, pre-Socratic philosophy, Egyptology, alchemy, occult medicine, high ritual magic, and cosmic planetary magic. 26 degrees, Magister Aquarii, Master of Aquarius. High degrees requires 12 degrees, 18 degrees, or 19 degrees/20 degree, and mastery of Uranian knowledge for the New Age. Appointed by the Grand Master. Focuses on esoteric astrology and requires 1 written essay. 27 degree, 29 degree, Grand Officer grades high. Honorary degrees, high-level leadership roles. Grand Commander, Grand Chancellor, Grand Inspector. Appointed by the Grand Master to trust its senior members with at least 10 years of membership. 30 degree, 32 degree high mastery grades. High honorary degrees, esoteric leadership grades. Magister Maximus Cardos, Magister Templarius, etc. Each held by only 1 living person at a time. Requires at least 12 years of membership. 33 degrees, Go-Tos. Grand Master, high honorary degrees. The supreme head of the order, who embodies the Lodge Egregore, nominated by high degree members, requires mastery of all aspects of the curriculum, especially sacramental magic, and the ability to answer 33 secret questions. 3.3. The Lodge concept and governance. The Fraternitas Saturni characterizes itself as a just, enlightened, perfect, secret, magical, ritual lodge. For initiates are ethically trained to be balanced and conscious members of society. Enlightened. The work is Gnostic, aiming for direct experiential vision of the divine. Perfect. The Lodge's work is structured to be complete and effective. Secret. Members' public identities are concealed behind Lodge names to ensure privacy. Magical. The Lodge works with invocations and evocations of transmundane entities. Ritual. The Lodge's work is structured around prescribed ceremonial cycles. The esoteric aims of the Lodge are twofold. The spiritual perfection of its individual initiates and the binding of the outer Lodge on the physical plane to the inner Lodge that exists on the mental plane. The worldly organizational head is the Master of the Chair, who is elected to serve a 3-year term, distinct from the lifetime spiritual role of the Grand Master. This formal structure provides the vessel within which the specific magical and ritual activities of the Brotherhood are conducted. About 4. The magical work of the Brotherhood. The doctrines of the Fraternitas Saturni are not merely theoretical constructs. They are a call to action. The Order's practical work is multifaceted, encompassing a disciplined curriculum of individual training, elaborate collective rituals, and highly controversial sex magical practices. Each of these components is meticulously designed to actualize the Saturn Gnosis, allowing the initiate to experience its principles directly and wield its power to transform both the self and the world. 4.1. Individual magical training. Each Keeler, or student, is expected to undertake a rigorous curriculum of private magical training in solitude. This work forms the foundation upon which all higher Lodge work is built and includes the following key disciplines. 1. Disciplining the will. Progressive exercises in visualization, focused contemplation and meditation to gain mastery over the mind. 2. Awakening the chakras. The use of mantra mysticism and vocalic breathing techniques to activate the body's subtle energy centers. 3. Dream work. The systematic observation, recording, and eventual control of the dream state to access the subconscious and astral realms. 4. Mastery of sexual drives. Spiritualizing the experience of sexuality and learning to polarize direct sexual odic forces for magical ends. 5. Gaining command of entities. Drawing upon the methodologies of medieval German grimoires of the Faustian tradition to gain influence over astral and planetary entities. 4.2. Collective Lodge rituals. The group work of the FS takes place within a formally consecrated temple. The Lodge room is typically draped in black or dark green, adorned with inverted sigils to activate chthonic powers, and arranged according to a Masonic-style layout. A magical regalia are central to the work, with the Saturnian ring being of paramount importance, forged from silver, the metal of the moon, which channels Saturnian influence. It is inscribed with an isosceles triangle containing the glyph of Saturn. More than a mere emblem of membership, the ring functions as a magical accumulator of the wearer's will and a direct channel for the Saturnian force of the Brotherhood. Most FS rituals are built upon a 12-step structural formula designed to condition the psyche and project collective will. 1. Sealing. 2. Compression. 3. Procession. 4. Illumination. 5. Meditation. 6. Mantra. 7. Invocation. 8. Magical chain. 9. Communion. 10. Submergence. 11. Projection. 12. Departing. 4.3. The Saturnian sacraments and the Luciferian Mass. The FS functions not only as a magical order, but also as a sacerdotal religion with a full liturgy of 20 sacraments. These rites correspond to major life events and spiritual milestones, including the sacrament of initiation, the sacrament of communion, the sacrament of transformation, extreme unction, and the sacrament of marriage. Of particular note is the sacrament of light, which is explicitly a Luciferian Mass. This ritual does not worship the Christian devil, but rather celebrates Lucifer as the light of reason and the Gnostic benefactor of humanity. Its purpose is to allow participants to directly experience the transcendent dark light of the Saturnian Gnosis, inducing a transformative state of consciousness that leads the initiate beyond the confines of ordinary reality. 4.4. The Yoga of the Dark Light, secret sex, magical practices, the sexual mysticism of the FS, known as the Yoga of the Dark Light, is concentrated into the 18 degrees, Magus Pentalphe. While heavily influenced by the OTO, the order's practices have a unique Gnostic and astrosophical character. The central aim of many of these rites is the creation of a psychogone, a talismanic creature shaped and given life by the magical work of the magicians, possessing a magically imparted soul, or psyche. The 5M rite, based on Hindu Tantra, this ritual uses ritual coitus to charge and consecrate a parchment inscribed with the sigil of the desired psychogone. The combined and magically charged sexual fluids of the male and female participants are directed onto the parchment to give the entity form and substance. Astral procreation. This is another 6-step ritual for creating a psychogone. It involves placing the female medium into a deep trance while the male magician ritually draws odic force from her chakras. This energy is then projected into a sigilized parchment, which is finally charged with sexual fluids and drops of blood to give the entity life. Astrology and sex magic. The timing and nature of these operations are determined by astrology. Planetary aspects, such as squares, 90 degrees, conjunctions, 0 degrees, and trines, 120 degrees, between Venus, Mars, and the Moon, are used to determine favorable times for the work and to assign the dominant and receptive roles to the male and female participants. 4.5. Esoteric technologies. The Fraternitas Saturni displayed a notable interest in electrical magic and the use of technology to achieve magical effects. This aligned with broader esoteric and fringe scientific currents of the time, drawing inspiration from figures like Nikola Tesla and the psychoanalyst Wilhelm Reich, who claimed to have discovered a vital energy he called orgone. The FS's own lore and experimental interests included high-frequency sound, electromagnetic fields, and ultraviolet light. 2 specific devices are mentioned: the prognometer of the 19th century mystic Hona Ronsky, a machine claimed to calculate all past, present, and future events, and the infamous tepaphone of the FOGC, a sinister device allegedly capable of killing a person at any distance. In conclusion, the Fraternitas Saturni holds a unique and formidable position in the history of Western magic. It stands as a testament to the German esoteric genius for synthesis, forging a distinct and challenging path by blending the hierarchical structure of Freemasonry, the profound dualism of Gnostic philosophy, the revolutionary individualism of Thelemic law, and a starkly intellectual Luciferian worldview. Through its triumphs, controversies, and enduring influence, the Brotherhood of Saturn has left a complex, powerful, and indelible legacy on the modern occult tradition.